Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. When is the Sesko bid going in? What's going on with the midfielder? Why have we rejected an offer for Vlahovic when he's available so cheap? And everything you want to get into on a normal 8 o'clock show. I say 8 o'clock, I must apologise. It's 13 minutes past. I cannot, maybe I'll tell you in the after show. Let's get into the show. I'll tell you in the after show. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yes, look, has a Sesko bid gone in? Is it going to go in? Why am I calm? Why do we need to stay calm? Also, want to talk about that Vlahovic thing and a few comments around the midfield, and obviously you can get your points in as well. But before we get into all of that, I'd love to say that I was late because I was eating my dinner. That's not the case. I had my dinner about an hour ago, and it was a very nice one, and it was provided by HelloFresh, who are sponsoring the show tonight. Brought to you by the fantastic people at HelloFresh. Like I say, you can go on a culinary adventure as the United Stand community. No messing about. Meal times sorted. Simple, convenient, straight to your door. We've been working with HelloFresh for some time now, as you know, and we love it. You're going to get a fantastic deal. Desserts for life, loads of options, something for everyone. You go on the website, you pick your dinners, whether you're picky adventures or just want something delicious after a long day at work. This week I've received my box and absolutely packed with delicious stuff. We've got Caribbean-style spiced salmon. We've got chipotle chicken fajita tray bake. And what I've had tonight, 21-day aged rump steak and Parmesan gnocchi with spiced chorizo salsa. So you get everything there. You get it all delivered to your door. You get the instructions, all the nutritional value, really easy. But all those things I've got, and I've got some lovely desserts as well, delivered to my door. As I said, you open the box, bang, everything's there. No popping to the shops or anything like that. Everything that you need, you're sorted. You can be a master chef in your own kitchen. So you know you can count your calories. Everything's there if you want to. It's cooking without the chaos. And of course, the offer is exclusively for you. Unbelievable. United Stand viewers can use the code United50 for an incredible 50% off your first box. So 50% off the price by using the code United50, 20% off for the next 4 boxes you order, and free desserts for life. What an offer. Check it out. Absolutely fantastic. Links in the description. Exclusive deal. Fantastic food delivered to your door. 50% off your first box and 20% off your next 4, plus desserts for life. I'm salivating at the thought. The link is in the description, or scan the QR code. Thank you very much to HelloFresh. Right. Hello, everybody. Let's stay calm, first of all. I've got quite a few updates to bring you, but Sky is saying that Man United are going to put a bid in for Sesko. Newcastle are saying that they want a decision by Sesko in the next 48 hours. Why has Sesko not made his mind up? Well, look, let's go through some of the news and remember this. Stay calm. Also, we've got some updates on the midfield for you as well. Mrs. Stone says, get stoned. No, she doesn't. She said, I don't know why I said that. She says, get Sesko done ASAP and get a goalkeeper. Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you on that one. But let me just cap on what is going on. Some of it's from Fabrizio. Some of it's from Ben Jacobs. So, apparently, by the way, if anyone gives a toss, we'll talk about Sancho a little bit later, but I don't think we will, because I think you lot will drive the show on the 8 o'clock like you always do. And please do subscribe to the channel, by the way, because we're so close to 136,000. We're about 50 away. Bottom right-hand corner to subscribe. Anyway, this is what Ben Jacobs said this afternoon. Newcastle want an answer from Sesko within 48 hours. Newcastle now confident they can reach an agreement with Leipzig, but have no plans to allow the saga to drag on to the latter part of this week without clarity. Man United still in the race. Leipzig awaiting a formal offer. As of Monday morning, only verbal club-to-club talks with suggestions of a formal offer premature in relation to Man United. So Newcastle are making offers. They're not willing to let this run till the end of the week. They want Sesko to make his mind up. Also, Fabrizio Romano says Man United were offered the chance to sign Vlahovic in recent days, but Man United's response was they're focusing on Sesko. Interesting there. He said, while I'm recording this at 6:30 tonight in Italy and there's no agreement yet with Sesko, Man United or Newcastle, the situation remains open. Sesko is with his agent and his family. Sesko is considering all the details for this decision. And he goes on to say the details of what he is considering, according to Fabrizio Romano. Sesko is considering multiple things when picking his next club: his career, his life, European football, money, and the manager he will play under. Well, if you're moving for your career, Manchester United. If you're moving for your life, Manchester United. If you're moving for European football, Newcastle. If you're moving for money, Manchester United. If you're moving for the manager, Manchester United. If you're moving for the fans, Manchester United. Look, I'm biased, but I'm just very, very calm on this. Now, as I said, there was talk this afternoon, I think it was on Sky Sports, saying that Man United are expected to make a formal offer for Leipzig forward Sesko after Newcastle made a 69.8 million bid on Saturday. Man United have been in talks with Leipzig over a potential move and the fee they would be prepared to pay. Newcastle, meanwhile, are still in negotiations over the structure of the deal. Sesko offer expected to go in. Look, it's Slow Sports News. We haven't put a bid in yet, but I actually will be very, very surprised if we don't put a bid in. I think that where we're at the moment, let me just check. Yeah, thank you very much to the moderator who got rid of Hulkage. Love that. Legend. Right, let me go back to what we were talking about. So, yeah, I think that I'm very surprised about today. I said it on That's Football earlier when I was talking about Isak and Newcastle. Very surprised today that today is passed without incident. But it seems to me, and we're very aware of this as United fans, that when you're on tour, we don't have a negotiation team or the ability to do transfers. United have travelled back from 2 weeks in the States today. Everybody's probably got a day off. I don't know whether that's the reason, but it's quiet today from Man United's point of view. From Newcastle's point of view, they're trying to get the deal done. Sesko hasn't made his mind up and it's quiet with Manchester United. So I am somewhat surprised that today has passed without incident, and I know there are still a few hours left in the UK where we could get an Ornstein bomber. We've had it at 8 o'clock before at night, so it could still happen. But it feels like we're not going to get anything today. And I just would say stay calm on this, because no news is good news for Manchester United. Newcastle are the ones pushing the envelope. Newcastle are the ones making bids. Newcastle are the ones putting deadlines on it. I don't think this helps Newcastle at all. I genuinely don't think putting a 48-hour time limit on it helps them at all. I think it's desperate. I think it's sort of like the person you propose to who you think's in love with somebody else, and they're going, I'll think about it. And then you start to get panicky and you go, well, if you don't tell me you're marrying me in the next 48 hours, I'm withdrawing my thing, because you're panicking. And I think that's what's happening with Newcastle. I think they are going, we've got to move quick. We've got to move quick. We mentioned this morning that they're now being linked with Ramos as well. Looks like they've got an alternative. We haven't. It could be the calm before the storm in a bad way, but I think I'm calm. I think I'm calm. I go back to David Ornstein's tweet last week saying that we're focused on Sesko. Fabrizio Romano saying it again, that we're rejecting offers for other strikers. We want Sesko. And the way Man United operate, we very rarely we very rarely try and buy players where there's competition. Our stance is normally to go for players that we know want us. Whether it's Harry Maguire, whether it's Pogba, whether it's Bruno, whether it's Mbeumo. They might take weeks to do, but the player has committed to us, and then we negotiate for weeks. I don't for 1 minute believe that we are sat there going, we like Sesko, let's wait and see if he wants us before we bid. We've gone public on this. We've got to have had some encouragement from Sesko and his agent. So I'm very calm. I'm absolutely just waiting for Sesko's chosen Manchester United, which I think will be a real positive, and it's exciting, and he should be choosing us, and we welcome that. It's not arrogance. I just think it's the right move for him, and it's the right move for us, and I'm absolutely focused on that, and I'm very calm about it. And I look around, and people are getting so stressed and frustrated, going, "Well, if he doesn't pick us, then he can do one." And I'm like, hold on a minute. At no point has he said he's thinking about Newcastle. At no point has he said he's thinking about snubbing Manchester United. If anything, Newcastle have made the bid. If he wants Newcastle, he could just do it. I think he wants Man United. But I think, as I've said before, it's always beneficial to just stay quiet and get the best deal you can financially for yourself, also for his agent. And by staying quiet and playing Newcastle offers a little bit, you can get their offer, you can compare it to us. We've spoken about this before. I think I just think, we're in a very, very good position with Sesko, and I expect us to get the deal done. And I think there's probably frustration from Newcastle. There's probably frustration from Leipzig. But if we were panicking, I think we'd have put a bid in by now. And I think the fact that we haven't, it could well be that we're waiting to do something as well. We might be the ones holding this up. Sesko might be saying, I don't want to declare for you, because what if you don't get the thing done you want to get done? We might be waiting to do something. It could involve Rasmus, it could involve Anthony, it could involve Sancho. There could be something that we're holding up, and he's waiting for us. So I remain very calm and very sure that we're going to get him. So let's see what happens. Who wants to live in Newcastle, says Hypochondriac. It's a good night out. Did you see Ben Jacobs mentioning that Donnarumma could be available for 30 million plus? Apparently his wages would be upward of 200k a week, says Tumbleweed. All I've seen about Donnarumma, mate, is that he's planning on staying at PSG and running his contract down, which is exactly what I would have thought he would do in the first place. Very similar to Jadon Sancho. Why, with a year left on your contract, do you sign a long-term contract when you can run your contract down and say to whoever, I'm one of the best goalkeepers in the world and I'm available for free, so give me a shitload of money and I'm minted. I think he's going to run his contract down at PSG. I don't want him if he doesn't want us, says Alexander, and this is my point. Absolutely no information or reason to believe he doesn't want Manchester United. 5TV David says, you gave David Ornstein the credit for the Sesko news. I believe I heard it on here from Ben Jacobs first, says 5T4 David. Mate, I don't know. I don't know who landed it first, to be honest with you. We've been scouting Sesko for about 4 years. So we wanted Sesko last summer. We wanted Sesko last summer under Ten Hag. He decided to stay, and we hijacked the Xerxes deal from AC Milan when he was going to go from Bologna to AC Milan. So we've always wanted Sesko. And all I know is that, if I'm being completely honest, if David Ornstein says Man United want Sesko, I got very excited about that because of the credibility of David Ornstein. That's not taking anything away from anybody else. Sesko, who wants to live in Newcastle? Shithole, says Sam Webb. Ooh, come on. That's not me, by the way. Congratulations on winning the Premier League Summer Series trophy. Eagerly waiting for the bus parade. Get in. All we need now is Jackson to win the treble, says Kanishka. Even though we need a striker, we are in desperate need of a midfielder because I think we're going to get overrun by nearly every team in the league. I've got something to say about that, Dale. We'll talk about that next. But remember, you drive the Saturday show, not the Saturday show, the 8 o'clock show. So we can talk about what you want to. Get Sesko done, says Mrs. Stone. When are we going to get fresh delivery of Sesko? If we don't get a new striker, midfielder and goalkeeper, which is necessary now, I can see it costing us top 10. Anana will never be good enough, says Mike. I mean, you know what? Just very, very quickly, I don't propose to spend any time on this. I'm being a bit selfish just discussing it, but Mike has prompted it with a very generous super chat there. I don't think Anana can win next season. Genuinely don't think he can win. I was thinking about this the other day. He starts in goal against Arsenal, Fulham, Burnley. Unless he's flawless, so many United fans don't want him. And I don't know how you can change your technical ability of a goalkeeper over the summer. I think he's done at United. I just don't think there's a way back. I think the trust is gone. I don't think the defence trust him. I don't think the fans trust him. I don't think Amorim trusts him. But out of necessity, we're probably going to have to pick him. And, you know, even Binder last night is palming bloody shots back into danger. I mean, I don't know whether it's coaching at Manchester United or we're just very unlucky that we've got two goalkeepers who've got no concept that when you make a save, you're meant to twist your wrist and palm it, angle it out of danger. So, you know, that does worry me. Can in any scenario we can have Bruno as a 9 and then a new midfielder and goalkeeper to make up this season? We're not putting Bruno as a 9, Vidget. Come on. Can we have some serious conversation? If the Sesko deal falls through, is Vlahovic that bad, says Brian? I don't want Vlahovic. I sound a bit like Hugh Grant there. You know, at the end of the day, I don't want. You know, I've been thinking about this, and you know. Anyway, I live in Newcastle, you pricks, says Dale. See, you're bound to offend somebody. Bankin says, no, I'm not talking about that. Move on. Did you see Ben Jacobs mentioning that Donnarumma? You've done that one as well. Okay, I want to talk about this next thing because this is about the midfield. This has come in from Athletic. So basically, a couple of... It's Laurie Whitwell, actually. So just a few comments from him. Actually, before we talk about that, we're getting quite a few bits of information coming in here. Fabrizio Romano is saying that Chelsea are advancing on the personal side with Garnacho. Yeah, good luck. And Newcastle, this is from Laurie Whitwell. Newcastle made a bid applying pressure to the player. If they can get an agreement with Leipzig, and whether then they'll suggest to him that Newcastle is the one we've accepted an offer from, so it's either them or you stay. I feel like United want to get to a position where they feel they have Sesko on board, and then they try and do a deal with Leipzig like they did with Brentford and Mbeumo. It's a delicate... Dear me, sorry. It's a delicate one, and conversations are still ongoing. Look, I think logically, I think that's what everybody thinks. And, you know, I think Laurie Whitwell's correct on that. I think Newcastle have made the bid, wanting it to get accepted, so they can say to Sesko, look, we're here, you know, get on with it, because United haven't even had a bid. And if they don't put a bid in, you're staying at Leipzig. So I think that is Newcastle's tactic. I also think Man United's tactic is to get Sesko to say he only wants us, and then that gives us power to negotiate with Leipzig. And I think that's what's going on, and that's why there is a chance Newcastle could do it. I don't think it comes down to the manager, the city he wants to live in, European football. I think it comes down to a bit of a power play here, and United are trying to win that power play. Also, my information is that the situation is very much open. He still hasn't made a decision. I'm aware that his agent is talking to Man United about his wages. I don't see how they'd be a problem. My impression is that it was Man United that he favoured because of the stature of the club, and that's his long-term decision. Newcastle are in the Champions League, but the idea is that United will be in the Champions League consistently, so you don't want to make a decision based on one summer. I think that's very true. I think that's very true. I mean, look, many of us would say it's a risk, but ultimately, Newcastle are in the Champions League this year. They weren't in it last year. They were in it the year before. They weren't in the year before that. Newcastle, will they be in the Champions League next year? I don't think they'll be in the top four, so they've got to finish fifth. I don't think they'll win the Champions League, so they've got to finish fifth. Have they got a squad for that? So it's reasonable to say that Newcastle will be back out of Europe next season. And if you play for Man United, you could be the player that puts us into the Champions League next season, and then we plan to stay there. So yeah, I can understand that being a selling point from Manchester United, and I certainly don't think Newcastle can sit there and say, come to us, we're going to be in the Champions League every year. I mean, obviously a player like that would help them, but look, these are the conversations you're having. But as I've said so many times, I'm calm because I don't think Man United would publicly go for a player unless they've had an indication from the player that he wants them. Newcastle could just be being stubborn, staying in the race, and Leipzig just want the most money. But Man United, I think, have got some sort of nod from Sesko, and I think that's why the longer it goes on, the better for us. I genuinely think we'll get him, because the alternative doesn't bear thinking about. The public humiliation of not getting this deal done would be embarrassing. And if we don't put a bid in, that's even worse. So I'm convinced we're going to get him. Interestingly, I want to talk about the midfield next. We can refer back. Got a bit of a Sancho story as well. Laurie Whitwell, Athletic, saying this. On the midfield, I think it certainly was a position at the start of the window that they wanted to address and supplement. That then brings into the equation who could potentially go out. Now, this is absolutely spot on. He's right about this. We spoke about this in May. Our source from the club basically told us in May. We did the video, spoke about this a couple of times on the watch along last night. Amorim wants a midfielder. The midfield 2 is really important in his system. It's the same as the wing backs. It's the same as the 10s, the striker, the goalkeeper. Every player is important in an Amorim system, but that midfield, he needs somebody in there. Now, ideally, he wants Yulmland, but he knows that's difficult. But back in May, we wanted a midfielder, and it was Casemiro or Mainoo and Collier going. Collier's still going to go, I reckon. Casemiro won't go, and Mainoo's going to sign a new contract. So we want a midfielder, but I'm not convinced we're going to get one, because I don't see what's changed unless we panic and just spend a load of money like we used to with Casemiro and Anthony. But we've got Ineos in charge now, and I don't think Ineos are going to panic and spend money on a midfielder when you've still got Casemiro on 300k a week. So I think that causes a problem. Anyway, it goes on to say, I think if they do decide to bring someone in, that raises the questions around somebody like Ugarte and Mainoo and how many minutes they're going to get. I think an athletic midfielder is somebody Amorim would like to get, a number 6. 6 and 8 are his deeper midfielders. You think if they do get a striker, Bruno's going to play there. So who's going to play next to him as the 6? Ugarte would ideally do that. That's his role, breaking up the play. But giving the ball away is an issue, and if you do that in the Premier League, you're going to get pounced upon, conceding chances, and United will be a weaker team for it. He needs to improve, or United might end up looking at the position as the market develops. Again, you know, I see a lot of logic in that, and it's certainly something. It's an opinion from Laurie Whitwell, let's be honest, and it's not a bad one. It's certainly one you've been talking about all summer. Like I say, we spoke about it in May. The problem that Man United have got in the midfield, and we have to be real about this, because I'm with you. Let's buy a midfielder and let's start throwing names that are going to cost us 60, 70, 80, 90 million pounds that we don't have. But the cold, harsh facts about the midfield is it is not good enough. We've seen that on the tour. We saw that last season. It is not balanced. It is not good enough. And I'll tell you why it's not balanced in a minute. But in the immediate problem, it is the 4th of August. There are 4 weeks left of this window. We haven't got the ability to sell a midfielder to bring a midfielder in. So what are we going to do? Agate's been here a year and he's on good money. We're not going to be able to move him on. Casemiro is on 300 grand a week. We can't move him on. We've been trying for 18 months. Collier is somewhat irrelevant because he's basically a prospect player who hasn't developed because of injury and doesn't bring the money in if we move him on. Bruno, we've turned down £100 million for, and Mainoo we're about to give a new contract for. We're not in Europe. You cannot bring in a 60, 70, 80 million pound player, stick him in your midfield and have Mainoo on a new contract, probably on 150 grand a week, Agate on 150 grand a week, Casemiro on 300 grand a week, and Bruno on 300 grand a week. We just can't do it. We can't justify it. So, yeah, I understand Fabrizio and other people are talking about Man United wanting to bring a midfielder in, but let's get real. How are we going to do it? Now, I agree we do need to do it, but how are we going to do it? And the one thing I do not want to do in the next 4 weeks is start talking about Belieber, Wharton, Yulmland, knowing full well we've got absolutely no chance of doing it unless we can move a midfielder on. We're not going to move Bruno on, we've refused to. We're not going to move Agate on, he's only been here a year. We're not going to move Mainoo on, he's just signing a new contract. Casemiro is therefore the player you've got to move on, and what makes you think we're going to do that in the next 4 weeks when we've not done it in the last 18 months? And he knows full well he's part of Brazil's plans for the World Cup, and in a year's time he's a free agent as well and can probably go to the MLS or the Saudi or wherever. So I don't see it. I don't see how we're going to get a midfielder in. Maybe if we had Champions League football and you can justify having 6 midfielders, but we can't justify having 6 midfielders. Now the problem in the midfield is the balance. That, to me, is the mic drop. The problem, you know, I enjoy this conversation because it's absolutely 100%, 1000% a problem, an absolute problem. And look, the comment there about Agate getting caught in possession will lead to goals. That happened on the first goal yesterday. But Bruno getting caught in possession led to the second goal. So it's not exclusive to Agate. Bruno gets caught in possession deep as well. Bruno gets caught in possession high up the pitch, but he's got midfielders behind him. I don't think people realise how often Bruno gives the ball away. Like, he gives the ball away a lot. Even as a 10, he's always been, he said it himself, I'm never going to stop taking the risky ball. And that's why Bruno gets so many assists, but he gives the ball away a lot. This is something that doesn't get mentioned. If we want to break it down why some of us think Bruno's not a midfielder, let's break it down. He hasn't got positional discipline. He's not defensively that good. He isn't particularly fast. And also, he does give the ball away a lot. So he gives the ball away and they're on our defence. Agate gives the ball away and they're on our defence. So I don't think Agate and Bruno is a good balanced midfield. Mainoo and Agate never really get a chance to build anything because somebody always drops into the midfield and plays more. Casemiro just hasn't got the legs and Collier's got no chance. So the problem we've got in the midfield is the balance. The balance. You tell me what our best midfield 2 is. I personally, and I might get pelters for this, it reminds me when we first bought Fred. And everyone was like, Fred's not that good. And I said, what you've got to do is, you've got to stick Fred in the team and play him for 5-6 games in a row. You've got to stick him and give him game time. You can't just give him half an hour. Like Mainoo yesterday going off after, an hour. I was really pissed off because I'm like, when will I see you again? Because I don't know when we'll see him again. And we've made this mistake so many times at Manchester United. We bring a player in, we give them an hour. Oh, they're not that well. Bring on the status quo. You know, there is the thing in football where you stick with it. Like I've said so many times, Vidic and Evra didn't start off well, but we stuck with it. Players get better a lot of the time if you stick with them. And I personally would go Agate and Mainoo and stick with them, but we've completely not going to do that because we completely ignored the time to do it. We should have done it in pre-season and we haven't done it. So I think the midfield does need a signing, but I can't see it because we've got to move somebody on. And therefore, I've got no idea what our starting two is, but I can't find a balance in it at all. I just think we're so imbalanced in the midfield too, and we're going to get run through. We have got 3 centre-backs. That means we've got an extra centre-back, but I don't see anybody really stepping out quick enough. And I think it's a problem. I really do. Liam says, my bomber for the season is Amorim not selling Bruno or Mainoo will be his downfall due to the midfield. Like Fred under Ollie, McSauce under Eric. Look, Liam, somebody said it. I saw it this morning, and it got so much interaction. And they basically said, "I like Mainoo, but we should sell him. It's so obvious." And it was popping off. Some people were saying, "What are you talking about? You're not a United fan." And some people were saying, "Yeah, I completely agree. It's 40, 50 million pounds pure profit, and he's just not going to get in the team." I wouldn't do it because he's only 20, and in 2 years' time he might be a brilliant player. I mean, it was only just over a year ago he was playing for England in the Euros, so I believe there's a good player there. But I also agree that in the time that Amorim's been here, and let's just be completely blunt here. Amorim's been here since November. At what point has Mainoo ever looked like a starter? Never has he looked like a starter in that team. And don't talk to me about he doesn't play young players. Aidan Heaven has had chance at left centre-back. He picked Garnacho. But Mainoo, I don't know. We've got no evidence at all that Amorim rates Mainoo, other than what he says in interviews, because we're trying to get him to sign a new contract. I rate Mainoo. I know what I'd do with him. But I don't think we've got any evidence that Amorim actually rates him beyond saying stuff in interviews. Like, he couldn't get in, and I agree with David. Cobby has regressed in the last season under Amorim, I suppose, technically, but he couldn't get in the worst Man United Premier League side. You know? So, I know he's going to sign the new contract, but we've got to get him in the team. And the thing for me is, it's just such a logical equation. We're talking about problems in the midfield. We're talking about the balance in the midfield. We don't know how Mainoo's going to get in the team, but most of us think he's really talented. We're talking about buying a midfielder. Hello, Mainoo never plays. He's a midfielder. We're talking about buying a midfielder. Why don't we fucking use Mainoo? It makes so much sense. And if we don't think he's talented, why don't we sell him? And look, that's just taking emotion out of it. We need a midfielder. Mainoo doesn't get used. Use Mainoo. If we're not going to use Mainoo because we don't think he's good enough, we should sell him. Doesn't matter whether you're Mainoo, Bruno, whoever. So use him or sell him. That's what I say. Why are we talking about buying a new midfielder when we've got Mainoo? Like, what is the role of Mainoo if we're going to go out and buy another midfielder? Mainoo only starts at number 10, but we've just bought 2. Look, if Mainoo's a 10, sell him. Like, what is the point? Xerxes, Mount, Ahmad, Mbeumo, Bruno, Cunha. We don't need him. We don't need him. He's got to be in that pivot or forget it. And if he's going to be in that pivot, he's got to play next to Bruno because Bruno's going to play in the pivot. So for me, I've just answered the question. Forget Casemiro. Forget Agate. It's got to be Mainoo and Bruno. Otherwise, why are we giving him a new contract? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Where else is he getting in that team? We don't need him as a number 10. He's definitely not a wing-back. He's definitely not a striker. He's certainly not a centre-back. Bruno's going to play at the number 8 every minute of every game. He's got to play 6. He's got to play at 6. It's as simple as that. Okay, Brutus. Bye-bye, Brutus. Great show, Mark. Whatever happened to Zayn Miassi? I don't know. He's an Arsenal fan, isn't he? So I don't know. A midfield 2 just doesn't suit Mainoo's traits, says Matthew. Well, look, there is a conversation here. Tonali, Joel Linton, Bruno G. Declan Rice, Odegaard, and what will be Zubamendi. Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch. Man City, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's always been a 3. Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan, whatever. So most teams in the Premier League play a midfield 3. When I watch Man United, our number 10s are number 10s and our striker is a striker. And our midfield pivot is a 2. There is an argument to say that we're getting overrun and outnumbered because it's 3 against 2. And to be fair, that used to happen for Ten Hag as well when he was playing a 4-3-3. So, look, if you're asking me what I would do, if you're going to play a midfield 2, you need 2 absolute monsters in there. Now, look, Agate is not popular at the moment, but the reality is he is a defensive monster in relation to its intensity and interceptions. The problem with Agate is that in an Amorim system, you've got to be good on the ball. And I think Agate in a midfield 3 would be a lot better if his job was just to win the ball back and give it to better players. But in a midfield 2, you've got to do everything. And this is why the balance in our midfield's not right. We're only playing 2 midfielders. Everyone else is playing 3. So you can't have a ball winner, a passer, and a 10. You've basically got to do everything. You've got to be a ball winner. You've got to have a great engine. And you've got to have a great pass. Bruno's not a ball winner. He's got a great engine. And he's got a good pass. Agate is a great ball winner. He's got a great engine, but he hasn't got a great pass. We're imbalanced. We're imbalanced. Casemiro hasn't got an engine, is a half-decent ball winner, and has got a decent pass. Mainoo, I don't know what Mainoo's traits are. I think he's good on the ball. I think he's got a good pass. Is he a ball winner? Is he got a great engine? So we need 2 midfielders who can play the ball, win the ball, and never stop running. We haven't got one. That's the problem. We haven't got one. We haven't got one who can do, and we need 2. Bruno doesn't lose the ball by creating, but cheaply, says Andres. Martinez could play the 6 in the midfield, says Pentecost. I think with Martinez, he needs to stay fit first, mate. If we're sat here the first week in August saying Martinez can be one of those midfielders, I would say, well, before we even have that conversation, Martinez has been injured in the last 2 seasons for about 75% of the time. And you're going to stick him in centre mid. Good luck with that. Mainoo ghosts. I mean, look, I'd rather stick Mazraoui in there, to be honest. Mainoo ghosts. Agate is too uncomfortable on the ball. Casemiro is slow. Bruno isn't disciplined. We need to switch up now. Well, I think we need 2 by the sounds of it. Sorry, but Bruno's not being disciplined is lazy, says JSD. I fear for Amorim this season, Onana will cost us, says Andre. A midfield 2 just doesn't suit Mainoo, says Matthew. Mainoo only starts at 10. We've done that one. Bankin, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for supporting the channel and getting your badge in. Could Yoro work as a CDM? I think he has all the attributes needed for that position, says Rich. I think... Let me just double check this, because sometimes you can say something and be wrong. My initial thoughts on Yoro as a centre midfielder are he's too tall and he's 6'3". I don't think he's got the build to be tenacious and aggressive in the midfield. I think he's a centre back. I think he's too tall. It's like putting Van Dijk in the midfield. He's got everything, but he's too big. He's too tall. So I think Yoro is too tall for it, in my opinion. Yeah, I know Busquets was tall, and Rodri's tall, but they're different types of players, aren't they? I think you can tell by the way a player moves. Like Van Dijk's probably the best centre back in the world. Why wouldn't he work in the midfield? And yet I know he wouldn't work in the midfield. John Terry the same. Rio Ferdinand the same. They do a job, but I don't think they wouldn't be as good at their... Look, Van Dijk's a world-class centre-back. I don't think he'd be a world-class midfielder. Yeah, I don't think people are listening because people are going, Vieira was tall. How can you be too tall? It's not... The tallness is part of it. Like, if Van Dijk was 5'6", he'd have a lower sense of gravity, and he'd be more tenacious, and I think he'd suit the midfield. There is such a thing as, you know, you suit centre-back because the way you are on the ball, you're tall, you're not, like, in there winning tackles and, you know, up and down the pitch. Look, Yoro might be able to do it, but I think he's a centre-back. It's not a question. We need a goalkeeper and a centre midfielder, says N. Even Rodri would struggle in a 2 with Bruno, says Jason. Absolutely. Great comment. Great comment. You know, it's the same as sticking Harry Kane up front for Man United. I think he'd struggle. Erling Haaland, I think he'd struggle. Where's the service going to come from? And also, I think if you put Rodri or Kimmich in our midfield, I think they'd struggle as well. It's not necessarily about not being a good player. It's about being overwhelmed. Look, Casemiro, the last 2 seasons, has obviously dropped off a little bit with pace, but also he's been overwhelmed at times. You can't be everywhere. Duck says, question from my girlfriend, are you doing the watch along on here or That's Football for the Love Island final? I didn't even know it was the final. I've just realised we're going to lose some people in 12 minutes. And Harvey Jackson says, it's funny how much Scott McTominay would suit this team. I hope you're not saying in the midfield, because he fucking wouldn't. I mean, he probably would suit the number 10, but would you want Scott McTominay or Cunha and Mbeumo? I mean, I know what I'd rather have. I mean, he would suit the team, but we've just spent £125 million on Cunha and Mbeumo. He's certainly not a midfield pivot player. I think we all figured that out about McTominay now. Aidan says, how good would McTominay be now? I mean, that's the second comment. I seriously hope your IQ at football is not that you'd put Scott McTominay in a midfield pivot. I mean, we learnt this 5 years ago. He'd play where Cunha or Mbeumo are, and he might do a good job. I'd rather have Cunha and Mbeumo because they're quicker, but he wouldn't play where Bruno and Ugarte are. He was crap in that role. Scott McTominay's big thing is scoring goals. You would have to play him in a 10, not in the pivot. I mean, I can't believe there's people thinking we need a midfielder, let's buy Scott McTominay. That's not where McTominay's position is now. He's an established number 10. He wouldn't play where we're talking. God, no. Bloody hell. My bomber for the season is... Oh, we've done that one, haven't we? Thank you very much. I just want to talk to you about Sancho very quickly, but Pentecost has just gifted a membership. And Liam says he struggles to pass from deep, needs a long run. And Acho moved to midfield in games. Compare him to Yoro, says JSD. Do you think United put in a silly offer for Sesko, says Lauren Davis? We haven't put one in yet, Lauren, so... I don't know. I have said that, though. It's not deal done if Sesko chooses Man United. It could be weeks of negotiations. I mean, if Sesko says he only wants Man United, I wouldn't be surprised if we put an offer of 40 million in, if that's what you're talking about. So, yeah, it could still take weeks. Glenn C says, I've seen analysis that argued the 10s are supposed to drop in to make a 4. Maybe we'll see that from Cunha and Mbeumo if we get a striker, says Glenn. Yeah. I mean, you can only go on what we've seen so far. Liam says, you're telling me 5 years later our midfields are donuts. We've been talking about this. You're right, Liam. We have been. I used to call it the polo as well, the mint with a hole. Like, our midfield's been crap for a long time. Do you think Amorim does not realise midfield problems since he didn't let Bruno go? Is he blind, says Vaj. I really struggle, but I have to be pragmatic and play devil's advocate. I really struggle to criticise Amorim because, I want him to do really well. I really like him. But if you're asking me that question, which you have, and I'm not going to dodge it, I have said this before. Ruben Amorim is a better coach than you, me, and everybody else. But how many times has he watched Man United play? Not as much as us. There's no way Bruno Fernandes, there's no way Ruben Amorim, before he got the Man United job, was watching every minute of every Man United game, watching and analysing Man United like we do. So I think that my only concern is we know the Premier League and we know Bruno Fernandes from years of watching it. I don't think this is the case, but if you want a flip side, does Amorim realise, like Ten Hag didn't realise, just how important the midfield is in the Premier League? Ten Hag didn't get it. And that's the scary thing. Ten Hag's a better coach than all of us. He's a brilliant, brilliant coach. But he never got to grips with the midfield in the Premier League. He thought he could find a way with his way, and he completely couldn't understand and never dealt with the midfield. We were wide open. You could park a plane in it. So if Ten Hag can do that, then Amorim can do that. And some people are going, oh, whatever, he's a great coach. Of course I think he's a great coach, but I thought Van Gaal was a great coach. He made stupid mistakes. I thought Mourinho made stupid mistakes. Ollie made stupid mistakes. Ten Hag made stupid mistakes. Football ain't that hard. It's not that hard. People try to make it hard. People try to make out, you know, you've got to have played the game to know the game. And yet we've all played the game at some different level. It's a very simple game, football. That's why people like Sam Allardyce had a great career, because he just simplified it. And games are won and lost in the midfield. And if Amorim's going to put Bruno in there, it can work, but it's got to be really niche. It's got to be like Pep Guardiola style. It's got to be like, why has no one else ever thought of that? It's a risk. And I think it's something that we're going to find out. Like, you know, it needs to work. But we're not wrong to criticise it. You know, we're not wrong to criticise it, because if you watch the game yesterday, when Bruno went back to number 8, we fell apart. I know he got the assist for Mount, but I watched that game. We got a soft penalty and a brilliant goal from Mount, and apart from that, we did fuck all. Everton could have scored 4 or 5. They were the better team. And when Bruno went to number 8, well, the second goal was on him, but it wasn't great. So it's not like we're all going, I don't think Bruno can work, and I've got my magic crystal ball. Like, we've seen it not work. And that's the challenge for Bruno and for Amorim. They've got to prove us wrong. They have to prove us wrong, 100%. There's a bit of Sesko news coming in. I'm just going to get it for you now. I think it's coming in from Chris Wheeler. Newcastle are tonight. Oh, Craig Hope is the person to go through, because he is a very good Newcastle journalist. I've been listening to a lot of his stuff over the last few days. So this is coming in the last couple of minutes from Craig Hope in the Daily Mail, who's a Newcastle correspondent. Newcastle are tonight pushing hard to agree with Leipzig for Sesko after encouragement today he wants to join. Oh, am I calm now? Look, I'll follow the news. I'm not gonna sort of like, I'm not going to not do that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be naive. And as I say, if we lose this deal, it's really embarrassing. Very, very embarrassing. I mean, as I've said before, Delap, I didn't really want. Gyökeres, you can understand why he went to Arsenal. Ekitike, you can understand why he went to Liverpool. But Sesko, we've gone public on. If he goes to Newcastle, that is a huge L for Man United and a huge win for Newcastle. And I'd have to put my hands up and say they've schooled us. So that is a significant update. I mean, I'm reading it from Amorim Era on X, which is a good account. And I've got no reason to believe it's not true, because he's tagged Craig Hope in it. But Newcastle are tonight pushing hard to agree with Leipzig for Sesko after encouragement today he wants to join. I mean, that last sentence is the killer. If that is accurate, that's a kick in the nuts. And you've got to question, like, you have to question, what are we playing at? What are we playing at if he fancies Newcastle? Yeah. So Newcastle are pushing hard to agree a deal with Leipzig for Sesko after encouragement today he wants to join. It's not known what his camp has communicated to United, and all outcomes are possible. I mean, look, that there is an extra bit there. He might be saying to Newcastle, bid for me, and he might be saying to Man United, bid for me. I mean, look, there is something really strange about the Arsenal deal. And look, we can only go with what we were told by Arsenal people, but Arsenal always got the impression that Sesko and his agent were working for Leipzig, not working for Arsenal, which is a bit weird when you want to leave a club. So we don't know. He might be telling Newcastle, yeah, I want to go to you. And he might be telling Man United, yeah, I want to go with you, because they're just trying to get a good deal for Leipzig, which is weird, but, you know, it would fit in with what Arsenal have said. Newcastle, yeah, we've done that one. Yeah, so that's the big update, I think. Just having a quick look. Could always go for Samu from Porto. Newcastle are looking at him if they miss out on Sesko. Look, I've got to say, Craig Hope's a good journalist. around Newcastle especially. But I still sit here relatively calm, saying that that you know it's us. And can I just say, I'm not going to say shame on them, but the trouble with aggregation is people leave stuff out and there is context. So most of what I've seen until I saw the United Stand tweet is Newcastle are pushing hard to agree. So listen to this and tell me there's always two sides to a story. So most people are putting this out. Newcastle are pushing hard to agree a deal with Leipzig for Sesko after receiving encouragement today that he wants to join. The full quote is, Newcastle are pushing hard to agree a deal with Leipzig for Sesko after receiving encouragement today that he wants to join. It's not known what his camp have communicated to Man United, and all outcomes are possible. So, you know, I can give you an honest answer on that because I read the one where it stops with he wants to join Newcastle. But when you read the full quotes, it actually says the same thing might have been said to Man United and all outcomes are possible. So you go back then to where we were before. All outcomes are possible. So like DR says, so the news is nothing really. No, the news isn't nothing. The news technically is nothing, isn't it? Because what it effectively says is Newcastle have received encouragement to bid because they've received encouragement from Sesko, but we don't know what they've said to Man United as well. It could be just a bidding war, you know? So look, obviously, I'm caught in 4K. When I read the first bit, I'm like, oh my God, that's quite worrying. But then when you read the context, you sort of go, well, does it actually change anything? No. So, you know, I'm still staying calm, actually. And this is what I mean about getting the full story. Sometimes an aggregator takes the clickbait clip and puts it out. They don't put the other bit in because they're not going to get the interaction. And, you know, I like to think that you do get the proper conversation on here. But I did lose it for a few minutes, I'll admit, because I think, you know, it's a good journalist. But unfortunately, we haven't had the full context. If you want the full context, read on the United Stand Twitter account. Is Mount the new George Best, or was Best first Mount, says Kanishka. I'll leave that one. Don't you feel getting Sesko for the fact alone of screwing up Liverpool's chances of getting Isak is enough, Mark? Newcastle might not sell him if they don't get a replacement, says Leocardia. They'll definitely get a replacement. I'm not really bothered about that. I'm not really bothered about Liverpool and Isak because I think he'll sign for them anyway. Newcastle wanting an answer within 48 hours but are now pushing for a sale. I'm confused, says Slow Sports News. And if he does turn us down, just go all in on the midfield, says Matthew. I can see Arsenal 6-0. Then the uproar starts, says Harvey. I don't know. I don't know. It's too early to start predicting that. But I tell you what I will acknowledge is that if we get stuffed by Arsenal, you'll really understand the Amorim out movement straight away. People who've been quiet all summer will be Amorim out in our fan base. Very vocal, not to mention the media. We Are United says, with the deal is stressing me out. Mate, it's exciting. As I said this morning, it's actually exciting. You've got a transfer where two clubs want the same player. And, you know, it's normally exciting when a player, when you hear that a player wants to come to you. But this, we don't even know. It's like a really important signing where Newcastle want him as well. I think it's quite exciting. And actually, you know what? If we get him, great. And if we don't get him, quite rightly, there's going to be a lot of questions asked. So my message to Man United would be, if you mess this up, you're going to get absolute pelters. And that's why I don't think they will mess it up, because I think they're fully aware that this has been so public. And if you're Sir Jim Radcliffe, you know, you can't afford to not do this deal. You know, you're on thin ice anyway. I don't think after 18 months you've done a particularly good job. And if 18 months in, after no Europe and our worst ever Premier League season, you embarrass the fan base again by missing out on a striker that you've publicly gone for to Newcastle, I think it's going to go off. Really, I really do. Mbermo and Mount behind Cunha versus Arsenal, says Robert McCormack. I hope not, but it'd be a waste. You know, if that's what we're going to do, Robert, we never should have bought Cunha. It made me sick yesterday watching Cunha up front. What a waste. I'm very passionate about this. What a fucking waste. Buying a £62 million player who is brilliant in the number 10 position at receiving the ball and gaining the yardage, and then sticking him up front. Fucking no. I know he's done it for Barcelona, for Brazil, but what a waste of money if we've done that. And also, that's not what we've bought him for. Why are we trying to sign Sesko if Cunha is the number 9? We don't need Sesko. Might be an agent tactic to keep Newcastle in the race, says Matthew. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Slow Sports News. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Mark, what about Tchouaméni next to Fernandes? Says Christian. I don't know. N says, cheers for the fat kick in the balls. I mean, look, in relation to Tchouaméni, I mean, look, sometimes strange deals happen, but I've not heard anything about that. One issue is Amorim plays Bruno as a regista, unlike the Agarte-Nunez duet at Sporting, where Nunez was a segunda volante. Our wing-backs also aren't inverting into midfield yet, unlike Sporting, says Tabiso. You sound like a tactical hipster. I like it. Slow Sports News has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much. Absolute legend. Liam says, I wanted Watkins anyway. Mate, you know what? If we don't get Sesko and people say, let's go and get Watkins, we tried to get Watkins before Sesko and we walked away because of the price. Do you think that price is going to come down after we don't get Sesko? It makes it even more harder. I don't think Amorim really wanted 2 number 10, says the Boffman. And I just got back to Rios, Sickner, missing out on him, says Ewan Gordon. I just go back to Rios. Oh, yeah, okay. All about ego. Coaches want to be able to say, I made this midfield work. Simple as, says Jace. And Callio says, if we get Sesko, what would your starting 11 be? Yeah, I don't really want to do that because I think people accuse me, will clip me up and I'll get ridiculed by Newcastle fans. So I don't really want to do that. Suffice to say, let's not put Sesko in the team, but my starting 11, well, it's going to have to be an Arna. Although I want a new goalkeeper. I'll talk about players we've actually got. It's going to have to be an Arna. I'd put Ahmad right wing back with Dorgu left wing back. I'd go Yoro, De Ligt and Mazraoui, De Ligt and Yoro. Mainoo and Agarte. And I've just realised I've dropped Bruno. Well, I don't want Bruno in the midfield. And Mbeumo and Cunha. I've just done something that won't happen. That's ridiculous. It's not our best. I've got to put Bruno in the midfield, haven't I? This is the whole problem. I've got to put Bruno in the midfield in our best 11 because you can't drop Bruno, but I don't want him as a 10. I like him as a 10, but I would play Mbeumo and Cunha ahead of him. So Bruno has to play, you're right. But I refuse to put him in the midfield. I don't want him in the midfield. I don't want him in the midfield. Look, I think my best 11's irrelevant. I think Amorim's best 11 is Onana, Dalot, Dorgu, Yoro, De Ligt, Shaw, Bruno, Casemiro, Mbeumo, Cunha, and then whatever with the striker, I don't know. I know I've just not put Ahmad in the team, but I think he'll start Dalot against Arsenal. It's unacceptable to force Bruno out, so he backed him, says the Boffman. Do you think there's a logical reason why Kone is not getting playtime, says Palace? Just young, I suppose. I feel we made the wrong choice not selling Bruno and getting someone like Belieber. What are your thoughts as Pentecost? Well, I think it would have been better for the midfield. We need to reassess what our expectations are for the coming season. I know the window is still open, but we won't fix all our problems in this window. We need to be prepared for a roller coaster, says Patrick. Shit, I made a Fred comment after McTominay comment, says Shahin. Will you call it soccer next summer, says Mazraoui. No. Just tuning in, Mark. Has been busy. What's the bid, says Ryan. It's not gone in yet. Newcastle won't keep Isak, says Jonas. Where do you think the weakness lies with Amorim's formation? I think the 2 centre midfielders have the most difficult role regardless of personnel, says Enrao. I don't think there is a weakness with the Amorim system if you've got the right players in. I think there's a weakness with Amorim's system, and I think there'd be a weakness with Pep's system. I think there's a weak with Arteta's system when you use these players that you're using at Man United. I don't think the system's the problem at all. I think it's the personnel, and he's had 3 players. So he needs about 7 or 8, and he's had 3. So that's the problem. It's the personnel. That, you know, if you gave Pep Guardiola Man United's midfield roster, he'd struggle. If you gave Arne Slot our midfield, they'd struggle. It's not systematic, it's personnel. You give Amorim, McAllister and Gravenberch, I think that'll work. But you give Slot, Bruno, Casemiro, Mainoo, Collier and Agate, and Liverpool won't win the league. It's not system, it's personnel. And this is where the morons in the media don't get it. Because they're going, well, the system, it's the system. Why won't he go back to a back four? It's not the system. The system's fine. It's the personnel. And he ain't actually been given the personnel, has he? Has he had a midfield signing? No. Has he had a goalkeeper? No. Has he had a wing back? No. Has he had a striker? No. He's had 3 players. And I don't count Leon because... Oh, he's had Dorgu, to be fair. But, you know, he needs 2, really, doesn't he? Because there's a right side as well. There's a lot of work that needs doing. Why get a new striker when we can't even get service to the ones he's had over the past decade? Focus on the other parts of the team first. Well, I think we have Harry Amas because that's why we've got Mbermo and that's why we've got Cunha. Why do you think United seem to be more quiet than Newcastle on the Sesko situation, says Tyler? Because I think Newcastle are making a load of noise to try and not hijack the deal. It's not a hijack. I think Newcastle are making as much noise as they can in the hope that they can steal Sesko. And I think Man United are staying quiet because they're doing their business behind closed doors. Newcastle are doing everything through the media. Man United could be doing everything Newcastle have done, but quietly. Now, that's very difficult for us to do it quietly, but I think Newcastle are just making loads of noise. They're trying to cause disruption. They're trying to say, look at what we're doing. We want you now. Come to us. I understand that tactic, but United are choosing to be quiet. I still think he's coming to United. I still do. I really, really still do. I'm still very calm on it. I was a bit panicky when I read that sentence, but when you read the context, I don't think anything's changed. What I would say is we could be back live again at 11 o'clock tonight. It feels like all it is just that one leak about what's going to happen, and then it's over. So it did surprise me a little bit today that it stayed quiet, but we're certainly not going to hit Thursday like this. At some point, any time, we're going to hear like something. And I would imagine it will be Sesko wants to join Newcastle or Sesko wants to join Man United. And I think it will be the latter. Buying another 10 after Bruno stayed is on Ineos, says the Boffman. Thank you very much for that. Okay, well, look, after show time. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I won't do that again. Arise, Darth Vader. No, I'm not doing that. It gets clipped. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Stay safe. And obviously, if anything else happens, we'll go live. If not, it's the 10 o'clock show tomorrow. Please do subscribe to the channel. Absolute legends again tonight. Love the 8 o'clock shows. And thank you very much for tuning in. I'm just going to have a quick check that we've had nothing else coming in whilst we've been talking for the last 10 minutes, because you never know. Yeah. Okay, that's that's absolutely fine. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Okay, into the after show. SNS says, I think he kept Bruno Delo for some control over the dressing room as these players turn on the manager any second. He may be expected a mid anyway, or the other issue dealt with before selling him next season. Maybe he did. Maybe he did. Anyway, first after show of the week. I'm absolutely exhausted. And it's not even because of the match last night. We had a party yesterday and loads of people came round on the evening before the game. So I had a few drinks and I just didn't get enough sleep. So it's a slow, tired start to the week, but hopefully United can wake us up a little bit with a bit of business. Certainly that would be great. Please do subscribe to the channel. But you know what? I was thinking, actually it's quite a good theme, although there is no bar at a party, unless you have a really big posh party with a marquee and everything like that. And let's be honest, if you do that sort of thing, everyone's smiling, but behind your back they're going snobby twat. But I think there is, you know, talking about bars, this is something that's probably ran through my life. And I don't know whether this is unique. I don't know whether everyone else does this, but this is something that's run through my life since I was probably about 16, when I used to go down the local. Bar etiquette. At times, I've been very good at it, and at times I'm terrible at it. I remember going into like bars when I was like in my early 20s, and like I could literally be stood there for 20 minutes. just not, I don't know what it was. I don't know, you know, just wouldn't get served for ages. And then sometimes you walk in and, you know, even in a busy bar, you get served first. In fact, it used to stress me so much that I would like, you know, when it's your round and you're in a bar and you're sort of looking at your pints and you know your round's coming up and you're looking at the bar and it's relatively empty and you're thinking, right, what does everyone want? And somebody goes, oh, I don't know, I'm just finishing this one. I don't know whether I'll have a Guinness or maybe go on to a short or maybe I'll stick with what I am. And I'm like, just fucking hurry up or there's a gap at the bar. If I wait another second, everyone's going to run to the bar and I'm going to get stuck. And I also hate it as well. You know when you get to the bar and there is a gap there and you get there and just as you get there, someone appears from fucking nowhere. Like if you were having a race with them on the street, you'd destroy them. But you go into the bar, you know you're going to get there first, the barman's waiting to serve you, or bar person, and you're just about to get there, and then somebody gets there in front of you, and you're like, how have they bloody done that? Experience, you see. I think there's a skill to this game. And the best thing is, when you get there just at the same time, and you go, and my manners kick in, and I'll go, and the barman normally will look at me and go, what do you want? And I'll go, I feel a little bit awkward because we got there at the same time. And I'll go, oh, you go first. And they know I'm probably going to... They could just say, oh, that's very nice of you. What are you actually having? And I'd probably just go, yeah, just a couple of pints. And then they'll go, they won't ask that. I've been polite and gone, all right, you go first. And you know what they'll do then? Well, we'll start off with 3 coffees, the most complicated cocktail you've got. And just hold on a minute because I've got a table of 10. And you sort of go, oh, for fuck's sake. For fuck's sake. You know, that's what manners get. And this has happened to me many, many times. Especially if you go on a night out into a town in the UK. No longer can you go to the bar anymore and get, you know, you might be there and you go, okay, they're going to be next, then it's me, right? And you know, oh, he's probably just going to get, ideally, 4 bottles of Budweiser. The bar person goes to the fridge, bang, 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 swipe your card, no cash these days. I'm in. It's like Red Bull doing a tyre change. Not anymore. Not anymore. It doesn't, you know, you can be in a Wetherspoons and a guy that you're convinced is going to get a couple of pints will go, yeah, I'll have Jaeger bombs, I'll have a gin and tonic, but make sure the tonic is squeezed from a lemon through a filter that's been, you know, pissed on by Queen Anne. You know, it's... And don't ever take me to the botanist. It's absolutely brilliant for food. We went to the botanist. Was it the botanist or was it the alchemist? One of the two. Oh my God. The bar. Espresso martini, says Julian. Yeah. Oh, this one. Oh my God. We're in Birmingham. I can't remember. Well, it's either the alchemist or the botanist. One of the two. It's off. It's near the Grand Hotel in Birmingham. So we'd gone out, about 4 or 5 of us. And... there's quite a good pub crawl around there. There's the Old Contentables. There's the Tap and Spile. Some good pubs around there. And we were sort of having a drink in each. And then somebody said, let's go in there. And again, we were just drinking lager. So we go. It was the Alchemist in May, says Matthew McFadden. Well, I do like the Alchemist. I like the food and it's good there. But at the bar, this place, I don't know if it was the Botanist or the Alchemist anyway. We just went in. It was quite busy. You stood there, and you know you're having a chat, waiting for the barman. We'd been talking for about 5 minutes, and again, it's my round, of course. And I'm looking down the bar, and I even said to somebody, "Why aren't we getting served?" And then I look down the bar, and all I can see is every bar person with the silver shakers going. And then that was just one drink, and I watched him again, and it's rinse it out, bit of this, bit of that. In the ice. And then it's there again. That's drink 2. And I'm looking at it. And I'm like, I said, lads, we're leaving. And they're like, what are you on about? It's nice in here. I said, we've been in here for 5 minutes. Look how busy the bar is. And look at how slow they're doing one drink. I've got a train to catch in 2 hours. We're going to the Wetherspoons round the corner. Yeah, I find it absolutely so frustrating. I don't know. maybe it's an impatience, but bar etiquette, I've always, when I know my round's coming around, like I say, and I'm halfway through a pint, the eye does start wandering to the bar, looking at it and going, do I go yet? Do I wait? You know, it's certainly a thing. Should have gone Millstone in the Northern Quarter, says Lee. I'm not a cocktail drinker, you know. I like the film Cocktail. I thought Tom Cruise did a good job. But yeah, I'm not a fan of cocktails. I used to drink Red Bull and vodka. I stopped that. Bloody hell. Oh, God. You know, actually, I was talking about this today. So Oasis are in concert a lot at the moment on their tour. And, oh, well, I'm wearing it. Mad for it. I've got a hoodie that I'm wearing. And I had this on today, and I was talking to one of the builders, and they were saying, like, you know, are you going to watch Oasis then? I know somebody who's been 3 times. I went, I know someone who's been 4. I didn't. I said, no, I'm a big fan of Oasis, but I have seen them about 3 times in the 90s, / early noughties. And, you know, I would like to go and see them, but it's not really high on my list because I've seen them before. And anyway, I actually... One of the concerts I went to was Lansdowne Road, and I left about 3/4 of the way through because I had a panic attack. Not because I was in awe of Liam Gallagher. I mean, it wasn't a very good concert if anyone went to it. I think he'd just broken up with one of his girlfriends and he was mumbling in between the songs. It wasn't their best. But I was going through my Red Bull and vodka stage where I'd go out and drink Red Bull and vodka a lot. And basically... I wasn't having a heart attack, but it's full of caffeine, and I basically had a panic attack because obviously I was surrounded by thousands of people. I'm not very good with that anyway. So the Red Bull in me and the caffeine heightened it, and I ended up having like really quick heart rate, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So I had to get taken out by St John's Ambulance. Well, I don't think it was St John's Ambulance because it was in Dublin, but the equivalent of whatever that was. So yeah, I don't do cocktails or anything like that. I mean, I wouldn't say Red Bull and vodka was a cocktail, but I'm not really into cocktails. No, I just think it's all a big faff. Plus, I'm not into that. Nah, just give me a pint or a wine, not a pint of wine, and I'll be happy with that. Thank you very much. Of course, one of the big things about being out on a night out at the bar is the person who avoids the round. That is bang out of order. That is bang out of order. And we all know people who do it. And it's I mean, I've got to be careful because they might be watching, but we all know those people who avoid getting the drinks in. And the longer I don't know what it is. Like, if you're going out with 6 lads, not in that way, you're not all going to go to the bar individually, are you? Do you want, it's my round, oh, I'll get my own. That's even tighter. It's even more tight to say, I'm not going to be in the round, I'm going to get my own drinks. So if you go out, you're always going to get a round, aren't you? But some people won't get the first round in and hope by round 5 they don't have to do it. But the danger with that is, by the time you hit round 5, people might go, should we get some shots? But look, sometimes I think always drink responsibly. So I go out with some people and they can bloody drink. Like, I went out, when was it? Went to London about 3 years ago, and the guy I was out with first, he can drink like a fish, and I just said, right, if I keep drinking at the pace you're drinking at, I'll be falling in the Thames. So I didn't. But every time it was my round, I went to the bar. They were like, oh, don't worry because you're not getting one. I'd be like, oh, no, I'm going to the bar. I'm not drinking so I can avoid a round. I'll still get the round in. I'm just going to pace myself. People, it's... And that's a very important lesson as well. Don't drink what you can't drink. You'll pay the price. You'll definitely pay the price. I mean, it was quite fun. Well, no, I won't tell that story. I used to be able to drink a lot more when I lived in Ireland. I don't think that's a badge of honour. I mean, I've seen people who I don't know what it is. I don't know why some people can drink like 12 pints and be, you know, okay, whereas some people can drink 4 pints and be absolutely, they think they're bloody Rod Stewart, you know. And that's the way it is. Estrella says, I used to quite like Estrella actually. What was that? We get different lagers in the UK, so I used to really like Brahma actually. That was quite nice. I like a San Miguel when I'm in Spain. Mahon, I like that. That's very nice actually. I like the one in the red can. We should be signing Lookman or Samu. Sesko is too expensive. We should be investing those funds into the midfield. That hand action's getting clipped for sure, says JM. Nothing beats the Hairy Lemon marks as ESC. I mean, that's what I like. That's what I like. I follow the Hairy Lemon on Instagram, and I love it when they do the camera of walking into the bar, because I've done that so many times on an afternoon. Just go in, sit on a stool, listen to some good music, have 3 or 4 pints, while the afternoon away, and then go back to your hotel room, shower, go out for a nice meal. Lovely stuff. Don't drink to excess, just drink to relax. First rule of business, serve hotties first, says Shahin. From behind the bar. I used to work behind, you know what? I used to work behind the bar. And I must say, if you are looking for a summer job and you want to do something that will keep you fit, I used to work behind the bar. I've got to say, it's probably one of the best jobs to do. You're busy, the time flies by, and after your first shift, your legs, oh my God, you don't realise how much bending over you do. Bending down. Either way, it's not like that. Oh God, I suppose if you work in a crap pub, it's rubbish. But also you get your tips. But yeah, I used to love working behind a bar. What was my tactic working behind a bar? Was it no. I definitely didn't do cocktails like that, and I definitely didn't go to the person who was the most attractive. I did it on a fairness thing. I've got a very good analytical mind, and I would know who's been waiting the longest. And even if some gorgeous girl went, could you? I'd go, no, Stinky on the end has been waiting the longest. I run a fair bar here. You're not pushing in and battering your eyelids. That's sexist. I'm going to Stinky on the end. He might only be having a pint of Carling, but we're going there first. So no, I always run a far, but I was always a fair bar person, and I prided myself on that. And you got more tips for it actually. At the end of the day, that's just sexism from them. Trying to go, oh, look at me. In fact, I used to make them, I'd serve them last because I had a girlfriend. I'd go, you're last, trying that on. You know, it's the noughties. You know, we're all equal now. We're not having any of your sexism, shoving yourself in front of everyone, going, oh, look at me. Forget it. Not interested. Anyway, that nothing beats the Hairy Lemon. Lovely stuff. Okay. I think he could have done that one as well. I tell you what, I loved the bars in America. I don't know whether it's because of all the films, but I just love walking into the bars in America, and it's just like a long bar. It just reminds me of so many films. Lovely stuff. Anyway, I will love you and leave you. Thank you for everybody for watching. I really enjoyed it. Let's hope. I'm very calm on Sesko. I haven't been told anything. I haven't. I don't believe anybody's been told anything. I don't think there is an inside track on this. There's no one at the club who knows anything. Romano, Ornstein, they don't know anything in relation to what's happened. But I think follow the evidence. I just don't, as I said so many times, I just don't think United would allow our interest to be so public through David Ornstein if we didn't think we had the deal done. So I think we'll get it done, definitely. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Don't forget to check out HelloFresh, by the way. That's a fantastic offer. 50% off your first box and 20% off your next 4 plus free desserts. Give it a check. Links in the description. Scan the QR code. I'll speak to you on the 10 o'clock show tomorrow if I don't speak to you before, because who knows? Maybe tonight will be the night where we get a 10:30 night of action. Let's see. Take care. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.